Oh, you're good. No problem.
All right, there we go. Well, I guess we're already live, but hey, here we are. Ooh.
Hey,
How's it going?
it's going.
Yeah. So, my dog has the cone of shame for 2 weeks. He's just staring at me. Looks like Doug from Up.
Yeah.
Just picture Doug. That's my dog right now. Yeah. So he had a little procedure done. I hit something on his face, and they're like, "We should probably just remove that to be safe." And I didn't even know. One stitch, and they're like, "Yep, he might rip it out." Dude, it's the worst.
Claw at it, yeah.
Yeah. So at what point can I get on a soapbox and rant a little bit before we hit record?
Whenever you feel like it, guy.
Do you have a soapbox that you want to be on or anything?
I mean, I may have something to say, but it's not like really a soapbox. It's just more of a y'all are poor sports. Stop talking.
Okay, I know that. I think that should be on the podcast though, because I think it's important.
Yeah,
I like it. Okay, no, and it's just it's part of sports. Okay.
Yeah.
People should get over it. I think it would go. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get there. So my rant here is going to be about the Cardinals. What's up, Colin? Good to see you, man. I got a good question for you here about Manoah here in a little bit, but so Ryan Helsley went on the IL today. He's not a good closer. I just need people to know that he's not a great closer. He's a good closer, but who has a better closer? The Reds.
Yeah,
so
is a stud.
I know. And dude, I'm so frustrated because the Cardinals keep throwing out the same bullpen year after year after year. What's up, Mike? Thanks for coming to the show, man.
Big shout out to Mike real quick. He's the one that sent the jerseys.
Oh, what a guy.
For the giveaway.
Man.
Yeah.
Definitely a friend of the podcast for sure. Yep. Mike, what a stud. Yeah, appreciate you, man. Yes. So I'm just really upset because they roll out the same bullpen every year. And here's what we both know about bullpens is it doesn't matter how good they were last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Cardinals bullpen has been average at best the last 4 years. And who are the names that have been the stalwarts for this team the last 3 years plus? Are Gallegos, Helsley now the last 2 years, Jordan Hicks, and Genesis Cabrera. Those are their four main guys. And all four of those main guys cannot get guys to strike out as much as they should with what they have. They walk too many batters. This is the number one project I have for the Cardinals. Blow the bullpen up. Blow it up. Trade away.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really – I'm confused by what is really transpiring in St. Louis.
There's no leadership in that clubhouse right now. There's no vocal leader that is like, dude, let's go. The pitching has gotten much better. I'm ranting about the bullpen. The bullpen has done a pretty good job the last couple of weeks. Last week. The offense has forgotten what they're doing. Paul DeYoung, he's literally doing the Paul DeYoung, where he does just enough to where they're like, you know what? Hey, we're gonna go ahead and keep him because clearly he's figured it out. No, the dude's 0 for 29 again. He's terrible. He doesn't have any engagement to the game. He's going through the motions. How many times do you see when you see someone is locked in and any baseball player, they're locked in when they swing at a pitch and they miss or they foul or they hit a line drive, their eyes are on the ball. Mm-hmm. I have never seen Paul DeYoung actually look at the ball to the bat. He's always just swinging. And if he hits it, great. This team is so – there's no reason this team should be 27 and 39.
No. Okay. Yeah, and I was looking at it the other day, and you're like – you look at a bunch of the offensive numbers for Goldschmidt, and you're like, man, he's having a pretty down year. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's the fact that everyone in front of him isn't getting on base because he has so many hits, more total bases, runs, and it's by a big margin in most of those categories above everyone else. The home run numbers, he's at 10, 11, and he's got
he's at 10, I think.
And then 20-something RBIs, and you're like, well, the RBI should be higher. Well, it can't be higher if the rest of the offense can't get on base in front of them.
Yeah, he's hitting second, which I don't always like. It's the same thing with Aaron Judge, but whatever. It makes sense because you sandwich Gorman or whoever in front of them. Contreras hasn't been good. Whatever. I'm
Yeah.
not putting this on Contreras. 100%. This is on the personality of the team. It's a bunch of Paul Goldschmidts, Tommy Edmonds, and Brandon Donovans who are really good ball players. Good ball players.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this: Paul Young eats up every ground ball. Right, nothing's getting by him. He's a solid defender. He's not going to be a Gold Glover, but he's so good at what he does. This team, though, has a bunch of personalities that are like,
Yeah.
Oh, darn, we lost again, dude. You tired of losing? Do you want to be the Royals? God,
I say a lot of the stuff I see on Twitter. There's a lot of people are like, "Yo, Marmold's got to go." The management style is not there. He's too, I'm good at what I do already. I don't need to, make change type thing, and too headstrong in his ways. And they're like, he's too immature right now to be the head of a ball club. And I see a lot of people are like, he doesn't manage the pitchers right, doesn't manage the bullpen right, and this or that. And you're like, from an outsider's point of view, yeah, it is only one, but this is going on year 2.
Yes,
I don't think it's all has to be him, because you did have a pretty solid team last year, even though you lost in the playoffs early on. But like you said,
they lost in the playoffs because they don't have aces.
Yeah, and
that's why they lost.
And like you said, this year you're missing the vocal leadership that you don't have since Yachty retired and Albert Pujols retired off that team. Now you're lost, and you don't have someone that'll speak up or really put guys in check, and when they need to be put in check. And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting. And then they try to blame the whole Tyler O'Neill thing on him. Oh, he's managed Tyler O'Neill wrong. And I'm like, Tyler O'Neill just hasn't been Tyler O'Neill.
He's had one good year.
Yeah.
And that's it. He was consistently injured and not a he's a streaky player. Even when Seattle had him, that's why Seattle was ready to let him go for freaking Marco Gonzalez.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So, yeah. I don't necessarily like Ollie Marmol. The management does. And the thing about that is he's a yes man, so he's going to do what they ask him to, which is whatever. That's the way the new managers have to be. Mike Schmidt didn't do that, and Mike Schilt didn't do that, and he actually called him out on it, and he got fired.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you supposed to do? I'm so tired of watching this team. This is the first year I purchased, because I'm not in a blacked out area, the $100 and some odd subscription to watch every single game. And I'm so mad about it right now.
Can I get a refund? I'm a Cardinals fan.
It's so bad right now. So anyway, that's my soapbox right now. It's frustrating. I don't think, honestly, this team is not a blow it up team. This is not a tear it down. For one, that's not the way the Cardinals work as an organization. They don't tear it down to the studs. No, this is a retool. You trade O'Neill, you trade Yepez. Good Lord. Yepez is a poor man's Jose Martinez. Can't play defense. He's okay when he hits, but he doesn't even hit as good as Martinez did. Yeah. Redo the bullpen. Get new faces in there. You should be signing bullpen guys to maybe a 2-year deal. Maybe a 2-year. That's it. Yeah. Time to retool. We're going to see who's going to be good this year. And guess what? If you suck, we're going to trade and find some better pieces anyways.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed with the Dodgers this offseason, or this season is the last 4 or 5 years running, we've had the number 1 bullpen in major leagues, and now we're at the bottom 5, bottom 6 in bullpens right now. It's hard to stomach, going from being one of the best bullpens in the major leagues every year to we can't trust anyone. We have to try to push our pitchers to go at least 6, 7, if not 8 innings, and that's not what Dave Roberts does. He pulls them after. And so,
third time through the order, pull him.
Yeah, we've got guys that are just. Yency Almonte had one great year last year for the Dodgers. Absolutely lit it up. Now he's got somewhere around 7.8 ERA.
Yeah, this is what bullpens do.
Yeah, and the guys that you thought you could count on, Alex Vesia, he's absolutely horrible this year.
Yeah.
So they're trying. They signed a few guys off the streets. People, DFA someone and they'll go out and grab them, because that's usually how they build their bullpen. Is most of these guys are guys that got designated, and they're like, we'll take a flyer on them, see if we can't fix them down in the minor leagues and bring them up. And a lot of time it works out for them, but yeah, the bullpen this year for the Dodgers is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah. Was that your biggest rant for the Dodgers right now?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be that, and you got the injuries of starting pitching, which doesn't help any at all. With you got guys like Michael Groves who can't get through 3 or 4 innings, and you got Noah Syndergaard who,
dude, and he's slow to the plate. So like, if you walk someone or get a hit, they're gonna get in scoring position immediately. I
don't think anyone's been. I think the base runners are 100% when it comes to attempting steals off it. Yeah, he's so slow to. It don't matter who you have behind the plate. I don't even know if Yachty could throw him out because by the time he's delivering the ball, the guy's already halfway to 3/4 of the way to second base.
Is it bad jump? He's still gonna be safe.
Yeah, it's brutal, and but the bullpen this year for the Dodgers has just been the big weak spot. That I was a little concerned, but then again I was like, well, we usually have a solid bullpen. Most of the guys are returning. Got rid of Kimbrel, so it can't be any worse than it was last year. Oh, no, it's worse. It's way worse.
Well, yeah, and we'll probably get into it here in a second, just about the standings itself. But what a weird year for baseball. Yeah. There's 2 divisions where nobody wants to win it. I mean, could you imagine at the end of the year if it's the Pirates who win the Central? I don't think it's going to happen, but
yeah,
I do have a fun question about the NL Central. 2 players I want to throw at you to see which one you'd want. And I think I know which way you're going to go, but we're going to see. We're going to see where it goes because both are pretty good. So anyway, we're probably going to have to start the recording. If you're good with that.
Let's do it.
I like the rants, though. Also, real quick, Colin, you mentioned Canadian Golf Football League. Tubby, do you know what that is? What is that, Colin?
I want to know. Are you talking about the security guard taking out Adam Hadwin yesterday? Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That makes total sense. Okay.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. No, that was pretty good. I was like, what? Is this a new league?
I had like the perfect joke too. Like when it happened, we were talking about it in one of the card chats, and one of our listeners is a USC fan, and I was hoping he was in the card chat, and I threw it out there, and I was like, you know what? USC needs to hire this guy to come out and teach them how to tackle because they can't tackle. And unfortunately, he was not in the chat. I was like, dang it.
That is unfortunate.
That was like beautiful.
Dude, it could have been one of those like, I don't know, man. All my coaches got to be under $185, and he's 187. So,
yeah, I mean, he laid down a pretty good form tackle on him.
Yeah, that was great. Did you see Conor McGregor and the mascot? What are we doing, man? These are these random things in sports right now. It's because it's June.
That second one, you could tell. You could absolutely tell. It was like it stunned the mascot because like. When he got hit when he was on the ground, you can see kind of like wanted to flinch up and put his hands above his face. But it was like, oh no, I gotta act like I'm dead real quick. Yeah.
Someone was saying Colin just lost where he was. They're saying like just because he's been fighting for so long, he just got carried away, and he forgot that it was a bit. What you think mascot? This isn't like we're not fighting. Like, could you imagine? I could see this happening with like the mascot for like. Who is it? The Michigan State, because it's
Spartan.
It's a Spartan. Oh, look out! What happened? It's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, that second one, he just whack. I was like, oh, that probably had hurt. And then like day and a half later, oh yeah, they had to rush him to the ER because of concussion. I was like, yeah, that looked like it landed pretty good.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna be good.
Goodness.
All right, you ready? You ready to get this ball rolling?
Let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back to the W Sports Podcast. Listeners, everybody, Jimothy, myself is here as always with me. This is a lot of words to say that the one and only Tubby is back here with us as always.
What is up?
Let's go. Sometimes my wife says that I talk like Michael Scott, where I add unnecessary words in dumb spots that don't make sense, but at the end, you have a sentence with a period at it. So who's in the wrong here?
I mean, it's either are you Michael Scott or are you Kevin Malone, where you don't use enough words and so you don't know what they're saying.
Well, we can each pick one.
Yeah. SeaWorld.
Viewership went way up, but
Yeah.
understood went way down.
Yeah. SeaWorld. Are you saying you want to see the world or you go to SeaWorld?
Yeah. So do you guys have a Peacock or anything like that?
We did. I don't
Okay.
think we.
Dude, they have the what are the extended episodes from The
Yeah.
Office? Dude, that's so good. They're just like it's like a whole new season. We're going through it again. So that's when all of a sudden I was like, oh, that's why I say words like that. I'm sorry, babe. That's where she goes like, this is not a redeeming quality. You don't want to be like Michael Scott.
But I mean, in some aspects, maybe you do.
Yeah, he becomes likable towards the end for sure.
Yeah, I got juked the other day. I think I was on Facebook or something, and I'm scrolling through, and it was like, The Office is back. Everyone's been waiting. I was like, oh boy, maybe they're going to do something like, after they've been talking, like kind of where are they now type thing. And I clicked on it, and it's like, oh, they're making an Australian version of The Office. I'm like,
boo.
That's not the same thing.
Well, yeah. Well, the British version was the original, but ours was way better.
Yeah, no, I watched the British version, and yeah, it's not the same.
It's pretty
not
rough.
the same.
It's pretty rough. Yeah. Well, if you guys didn't know, we are live on the YouTube. I almost said the W podcast. We are live on YouTube right now as we're recording, and as you're listening to this episode. So every single Monday night at 6:30 we go live, and you can throw in your questions. You can throw in your sports rants. That's what we've been talking about on YouTube already with some bonus content. So you can go over to YouTube. You can find the W Sports Podcast. You can listen to it, watch it. You can comment, all those kind of things. But also subscribe. So we'd appreciate that. We're on the journey to get to our next jersey giveaway. So you definitely want to be a part of that. But with that, I want to start today's show with Tubby's current rant he has in sports. Just go.
Yeah. Danny Cannell needs to get off Twitter. Just
Okay.
the absolute just like buffoonery that he has put out there after Florida State got dominated by Oklahoma in won the softball World Series. All the stuff he crying about, oh well, it's home field advantage and this or that, just stop. You guys lost. You lost big time. It don't matter where we played you. We could have played you in Australia. We were going to beat you.
Yeah. How many games did OU win at neutral or away this year? They lost one game. I just want to point it out. And we played more road games or neutral than home games. They
played 20 games at home this year. That's it. That's 20 games out of the 64 total games that they played. Yeah. They played, and he goes, well, where was that one loss? Okay, so you're saying just the one loss, and it was at a neutral site, some tournament down in Baylor, and it was against Baylor at Baylor. So
I know.
Yeah, and then you there was this another page, so I kind of went off on them too. Like they were like Are
you going off a
women's
podcast? Are you getting the name like?
This one was, yes. This one absolutely was. It was so it's supposed to be like a women's advocacy, for college sports.
Okay.
Well, they came out and they just absolutely started hammering Oklahoma. This is unfair. This is so bad for the sport of softball.
Why?
That we have one team dominating, and so I got on there. I'm like, so what you're saying is, so what I put on, it was like, the sport has never been as popular as it is right now. They brought so many fans to the sport. They've accelerated the game of softball for many years over the last few years, and the fans are so much are coming in waves that we're having to build 10,000 seat stadiums for softball.
Programs are starting up. Yeah. Division I Power 5 schools.
Yeah, and I'm like, so you're saying this is a bad thing for the sport, that where there's more popularity and that the game is getting bigger and more widespread? Okay, absolutely terrible take. And so they OU fans were just hammering them. Just absolutely hammering. And so like a couple days later, like, can we just white flag? Can we just stop this? Our page is getting overloaded. And I'm
they white flagged it? Did they really?
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, we give, and they're like, no, not until you apologize, because it was almost like we needed. And this is like literal words. They said we need to do everything in our resources possible to combat the Oklahoma softball way they're doing it. And people are like, so now you're threatening these, you're supposed to be advocating for women's sports, and now you're threatening these women's sports that you're supposed to be advocating for. And they're like, so OU fans, I mean, if you know OU Twitter, like any
Oh,
sports,
yeah,
it's absolutely,
and it's a
yeah,
big spectrum too of fandom.
yeah, yeah,
There's
oh,
the gracious and the not gracious side.
yeah. So, I mean, they're every single thing that they post is just absolute Oklahoma. And well, Oklahoma fans like the only way this is going to stop is if you apologize. And they're like, well, and so they put out this like half-hearted apology, and it was like, oh, we didn't mean anything by it. We congratulated him, blah blah blah. And some of all the people were like, this is an apology, and start hammering them again. Yeah.
Waves. Yeah,
And
no,
so
I think that's definitely fair. Does that mean that UConn women's basketball was bad for women's basketball? Was Tennessee bad for women's basketball? Was UCL bad for men's basketball?
and see, and this is that was the thing. They had a couple years ago put out a tweet, and it was basically in support of what Oklahoma's doing, but for UConn basketball, UCLA softball back in the late 80s, early 90s, Tennessee basketball. And they're like, people are like, but that was okay. UConn winning 102 straight games, but Oklahoma winning, 53 straight games and 3 consecutive national championships is absolutely horrible for the game of softball.
Like, we just want to. Both of them were blowing teams out.
Yeah,
right? UConn was dumb. It was like 94-52 constantly. I mean, that's what OU's doing too. So it's very eerily similar. And eventually, things will change. I mean, UConn's not dominating like they were in the past. South Carolina's up there right now, and there's Baylor, and there's other teams like that. But it's great for women's sports, and I'm glad that you defended OU, but also you defended women's sports and the growth of the game. There's so much more money in it. I mean, when OU played Clemson, and I think the first game or whatever, I was like, I didn't know Clemson didn't have a program for softball. Yeah. What was it, 5 years ago or something like that? Mm-hmm. Absolutely insane. And now they do. And now they're seeing the growth of it. OU women are going to have a brand new stadium. How many standalone stadiums are there actually for women in pro sports? Do you know the answer to this? I know the answer to this. There's 0 right now, but there's about to be one in Kansas City. It's for the Kansas City Current, the women's professional soccer team. It'll be the first, but it won't be the last.
Yeah.
Just saying. Let's go.
And that was like one of the things, were like, the state of Oklahoma, they took on this as, there was no stadium, besides Hall of Fame Stadium. And they're like, we want to get more people in here. So they renovated millions of dollars, from taxpayers in the, in the city of Oklahoma City. And then, expanded it to where it's like 12, 13,000 seat stadium now where they can fit enough people in there to come watch. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what, you want to have this in Tallahassee, come down there and play at Florida State Stadium where you fit 1,012 people? Or, you can't have that. They're like, that's the reason why Oklahoma, they took on that and built this for women's softball. Mm-hmm. And now you're mad about it because it's the Women's World Series is there all the time. And so a bunch of people are like, so, man, I know I feel the same thing, being, a little facetious, going, oh, yeah, I feel the same thing. Nebraska winning the men's World Series every single year. Oh, wait, they don't. And they're like, you have to get there, and Oklahoma is there, and they are dominant right now. And there's just, Patty Gasso is probably, by the time it's all said and done, will be the greatest softball coach ever. And
like Gino.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you can't really, argue all of this. And they went off on it. And they, that group went off on it. I'm just like, y'all are just absolutely showing that, you guys are very poor sports. Danny Cannell, he went to Florida State. He thought,
Yeah, I know. I saw that too. I was like, come on, man. Homer.
Yeah. It was ridiculous. Yeah, I got on there. At first I was going to put it on my, my personal one. I was like, no, this one's got to come from the podcast page. Got a few extra followers from it. Yeah, I was just like, a sports, sports figure needs to stand.
Yeah, no, like
someone in
first off, how dare you? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was, it had me heated. Then the whole Jordy Ball thing today. You saw that where she transferred.
Oh wow!
She transferred to Nebraska.
Why?
She's from Nebraska. I guess the way it sounds like that she was contemplating doing this last year after the last season because she missed being home. And Patty talked her in for one more year, And then, they cap it off with, back-to-back World Series champions. And she was like, yeah, it's time to go home, be closer to family, all that stuff. Get it. Some guy got on Facebook in one of these OU pages and was like, oh, she's so ungrateful. She came in and she had, yeah, she what do you, her stock went up so high, and that she wasn't, that big of a person before. Her stock went up, and she basically used Oklahoma to get any offer that she could go anywhere. And I was like,
that is the
offer. I was like, what are you talking about? The girl was the national player of the year out of high school. She was the #1 recruit. And he's like, yeah, but Patty made her who she was. I was like, one, Patty absolutely helped her. No doubt about it. But also, there's a reason she was the #1 recruit coming out of high school. There's a reason why she won, high school national player of the year.
Yeah.
She had any offer she wanted to any school in the country she wanted to go to, and came to Oklahoma. I said, so one, she didn't have to build up her stock. She was a very popular person coming out of high school. Everyone knew who she was. Mm-hmm. And he's like, but Patty made her better. I was like, I don't think anyone's arguing this.
Oh, no, of course.
I was like, but what you're saying is she used Oklahoma to better herself. And I was like, that's not true. She was who she was before she came to Oklahoma. She just got better at what she was doing when she came to Oklahoma, but she didn't use Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay, whatever. And then he deleted the whole post.
Yeah, there you go. Well, do you feel like this was the greatest college softball season?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so too. Just the sheer dominance. One loss obviously was the only blemish, but even then, just the dominance through the World Series, not losing a game, multiple run rule games. I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah,
very complete team.
Yeah, you come off a year where you thought, okay, there could be some slippage, here or there, because you lose Jocelyn Arlo, you lose Hope Trotwine off of last year, one of our best pitchers last year, and you bring in some, a bunch of transfers that they're going to have to, gel together. And we saw there was some, they only lost one game, but if you watch the games, there was absolutely some growing pains at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. And Jordy Ball wasn't on her game at the beginning of the season, and they gelled together to where they just became this unstoppable force. And I think talent-wise, there was more talent on last year's team, so I think it makes this year even more impressive than what they've done. And on top of that, you set how many records, most consecutive wins. You're the second team ever to three-peat, and then you have the best winning percentage in a single season ever.
Yeah, and I would agree. Last year's team probably had a little bit more talent, but I mean, it was an insane season. And so we're going to keep moving on here a little bit, but we're going to come back to some more college stuff here soon. But there's one thing: the Men's World Series is happening right now. 156 pitches in a 9-inning shutout, complete game shutout for Stanford. Said, I ain't coming out. Sorry. Yeah. How do you feel about this? Obviously, for the record, 156 probably too many pitches. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Too many pitches. I don't know what his draft stock was. I don't know what his projections are. But the narrative that, oh, this is terrible. You can't have kids pitching this many pitches, which, again, we agree 156 is too high. I do love the competitive nature of it, but there's zero that you can show me that a certain pitch number is going to correlate to this guy will be terrible in the future and get hurt. It just drives me nuts because we babied Strasburg. And oh my gosh, this is it. We babied Jacob deGrom, and you look at where we're at now. I'm sorry, what's the difference?
Yeah, and so this was also another thing. It happened earlier in the college baseball thing with Paul Skeens, the pitcher from LSU, who'll probably be the #1 pitcher taken in this year's draft. Everyone was up in arms that they let him pitch the first game of the regional. And he threw 126 pitches. I think he went a complete game, won the game. And people are like, this is absolutely just terrible management by the coach. How can you let a kid go out there and throw that many pitches? And when you don't need to, you're playing Tulane. It was obviously the worst team in the tournament and this and that. And I'm like, when did we come into this where we go, okay, well, let's not throw our best guy, one, because, we're playing against this bad team. And two, how did we get to this point where we're like, oh, That's you're mismanaging these kids, letting them throw that many times. And do we not remember like Sandy Koufax, throwing the ball, 136 pitches, like 5 straight starts?
Yeah.
Or you got Bob Gibson, who, that one year he threw under 8 innings twice or something the whole season. Obviously, they didn't have the arm issues we have now. And part of that could be to the fact that these guys are throwing harder and stuff. But also, I think a big part of it is due to the mechanics. Is the reason why that we're having a lot more of these arm issues, that they aren't pitching the correct way. That is a big issue when it comes to throwing the curveball right, or throwing the slider, or throwing this or that pitch right, that you aren't putting, you're not holding it correctly, you're not snapping it right, whatever, and that's putting so much more stress on it. It's not about the pitch number. The facts don't prove that.
Yeah. Stretch pitch, we mentioned it last week. Stressful pitches are way more impactful. How max effort you're going to be. There's zero chance that most of those guys that you just mentioned before put max effort on every single pitch, because they knew that there's some pitches that, listen, I don't need to. I don't have to. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's the number. In the chat, Colin put 120 was a good number. I think that's a reasonable number. That's you see 110 and you're sort of like, all right, is he on a roll? Can he complete this inning? All right. Let's give him one more batter. Right. You get one more batter. If you're at 115, 117, I'm not gonna let you start another batter, and unless it was like the last one.
Yeah.
And it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, like you said, you're getting on these coaches saying, "Oh, you're doing wrong by these young kids." I understand at a certain age limit, these young kids, 13 and below, or 14 below, whatever. Yeah, they absolutely shouldn't be throwing this many pitches, and it's great that the Little League World Series has, a cap on as many pitches that they can throw, and they have to rest a certain amount of time. But when you're getting up there and you're, 18, 19, 20-year-old, you're still developing, yes, but you're an adult at that point. You know your limits, and the coach isn't going to leave you out there and risk getting their best pitcher or their best player hurt because they are a selfish person or whatever. It just, I'm over it. They baby these people too much.
Dude, they do. The other problem is, to what you're saying, in Little League World Series, you got to put those capsule pitches and stuff like that. Probably in like high school, you can do that kind of stuff. That's fine. More importantly than any of that is, don't isolate one sport, one position when you're young. Yeah. Stop doing that. Just let the kid go be a kid. Play a game. Do they need to play baseball 12 months of the year? I'm not a parent, so my voice probably doesn't count very much for this if I had a kid, right? I don't have one, so I understand the limitations of my perspective. But we grew up, we played a lot of sports, right?
Yeah.
And we had some minor injuries, but we never had the big one. And we constantly were playing sports. I see kids today, they're constantly playing sports, but it's usually the same sport. It's all year long, and it's the same position or same two positions all year long. So eventually the muscle wears out. You're not an all-around athlete. You're just, I'm a shortstop. I'm a right fielder. I hit dingers, right?
I hit dingers.
Yeah. So it just drives me like insane. Like, just branch out, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. You're doing a disservice to these kids. One, you're not teaching them to go through adversity. I mean, it's getting hard. Let's take you out now.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well, and here's the thing. Baseball is probably the hardest sport to make it into the profession, like be professional. Yeah. It's so stupid hard. You know what? Go for it. Go for it. Because the likelihood, this may be one of the greatest moments of your athletic career. It could be. In College World Series, you clinch the chance to go to Omaha. That's awesome. And, Stanford's going to remember you for that. Couple quick notes. We'll keep moving on because the biggest thing for today's episode. Okay.
I've got one more college baseball thing real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
ORU made it to the World Series. Yeah. Did you see that their center fielder has hit safely in 62 of 63 games?
Yes.
I mean, wow. I mean, that's an impressive feat. What is that, 47-game hit streak? Absolutely crazy. 62 of 63 games you've hit safely in.
It's one of the longest. Wow. Obviously, the longest. It was the longest. I don't know if he got a hit in the second game in that series against Oregon.
Yes.
Okay, so did he get one in game 3?
Yep.
Okay, good. So it's one of the longest in the history. It's still going. which is cool. I mean, for ORU, they clearly have a really well-rounded team overall. They won 50 games this year, so they're not in the toughest conference, but they still won 50 games. So I'm pulling for them. I pulled for OU last year. You love an underdog, a team that's not supposed to be in there, to go for it. But I do think, I mean, if we're going to go and put it out on the table, if you're making a prediction, Wake Forest looks dominant.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even, I don't even know how long we're going to have to play this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But we're going to come back to one college sports thing here before we wrap up. But I want to get into some of the other news and notes. The huge deal that it was the last couple of years with the LIV, the PGA Tour, all that said and done, they merged. They're not together, but they're together. It's complicated. You're wearing the PGA hat right now. I mean, man, we got to know.
Dude, I saw it. I thought it because I first seen it on Twitter. And I was like, this has to be fake. There's no way. They hate each other. They absolutely despise each other. And I was like, there's no way they're going to come together. And then a few minutes later, Bleacher Report pops up. ESPN pops up. I was like, what is going on here? How did this happen? And then you got all the guys that didn't take the money and take the offers that were in the PGA.
So mad.
Yeah, so mad. And most of them were like, we had to find this out on Twitter. They didn't come to us and tell us this, a couple weeks ago whenever we had a meeting with they set up this players organization or whatever. They didn't let us know any of this was happening. And I'm like, man, now you got to look at these guys like Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka. You got all this. Yeah, you got all this money to go to the Live Golf. And now with you guys merging, the litigation drops. And so now there's no suit over your PGA Tour card. Oh, I find it funny. Then again, I'm like, if I was those guys that missed out on that, like Tiger Woods, they offered you $800 million. And
he's not making $800 million on the tour anymore.
No, in the top 5 or top 6, highest paid guys in golf last year, 4 of them were from Live.
Makes sense. Did you see why though? They're listen, they had too deep of pockets. The LIV tour did. Did you see that number that they had? I just want you to guess. How much money do you think they had?
Oh, geez.
Now again, this is just a ballpark number they put out. I think the PGA put it out.
That has to be a lot of money because the amount of guys that they had brought over, and then on top of that, you're paying for it. It has to be somewhere in the billions.
It is in the billions.
Let's shoot for. I feel like it's conservative. We'll say 75 billion. I don't know.
$650
billion
is the number. I'm pretty sure it was PGA. I can't remember who it was. I should cite it, but I laughed. I was like, "Duh, you merge. There's no way. There's no way." That's why I said the richest people. I've heard the richest people in the world are not the people we think. It's not Jeff Bezos or whoever the Tesla guy is. What's his name?
Elon Musk.
Yeah, it's not him. No. It's someone that lives over there that has all this extra money that we don't know about, which is fine. It's their country, but $650 billion is a stupid amount of money. What do you even do with that much money? What are you going to buy? Can you buy the moon? Can I buy the moon, please?
They're buying athletes and celebrities. I mean, they were paying celebrities to come there, hundreds of millions of dollars just to put on concerts. Or they had this big tennis tournament a couple of years ago, just giving these guys, here's a couple of guys this is the most I've made in my whole career.
I just feel
to come play one tournament here.
Yeah. If you have that much money, wouldn't life just get boring? It'd be like if you could eat cake and you could eat pizza and you could drink soda and you could just keep eating all this garbage your whole life for every meal. And not like you eat a normal proportion. No, you just stuff yourself every meal all day, all night. That just feels like it just be. Ugh.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're probably not.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. So we got some sad news real quick. We want to hit on Major League Baseball. Last week we talked a little bit about some baseball. We've already gone on some soapboxes today. Just so you know, Diamondbacks right now cruising right now. Dude. They're impressive. Real deal or not?
I think they are. This is my sleeper team at the beginning of the year.
It was. I know they're coming together. So one team that was coming together has started to slide a little bit is the Blue Jays. But good news is, Colin, I hope you're listening. the Jays optioned Manoah not to AAA, no, to their complex league, so like instructional. So I do think this should help. I've seen this in the past with other teams. This isn't that abnormal. It usually is just abnormal when you see a big name like Alek Manoah, right? But this happens. It just sucks. I think Paul DeJong did something like this last year. Oh, and it helped.
So are you saying it's not going to help? No.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll help enough.
Yeah, no, I was shocked to say the least. I thought, I don't know. Suppose I read something where there was something that gone on with him and the manager after the game, after he gave up the 6 earned runs in the first third, the 1/3 of an inning he pitched. Yeah, and so I guess they had some words, and he was like, you know what, get out. You're going to Florida.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's probably good for him because it's just
because he's not going to be able to figure it out here.
Yeah, no, obviously not, because the guy has had how many starts this year and hasn't figured anything out. Yeah.
So hopefully it helps because he was so good last year. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year, but he could be good again. Other pitcher, deGrom, out for season. Did we talk about that last week? I don't remember if that
No, we didn't talk about it.
We knew we went back on the eye. We got transferred to the 60-day. And I think right after, maybe it was that or Tuesday, is whenever he actually announced Tommy John surgery.
I mean, this is exactly what we talked about.
I know it sucks, though, because, man, the Rangers are coming on strong, and the Astros are still the Astros, and we need every advantage we can to not let the Astros win a World Series.
I mean, they've done a good job without him anyways. He's pitched 6 games this year, and 3 of those got cut short in the 4th inning because he had to come out because of injuries.
Jeez.
So, I mean, obviously it hasn't hurt him that bad.
It's an expensive pitcher right there.
Oh, yeah. This, I mean, exactly what we said back in December when he signed the contract that, this was a terrible signing because we don't know how many games he's going to pitch, and you just gave him $185 million with the 6-year option to boost it up to $222 million for a guy that has pitched, I think, what we say, the last 3 years, and one of them was the COVID year. He pitched 37 starts.
That was the last year he pitched the full season.
The full season, yeah.
A 60-game regular season. And I think the biggest thing on that was maybe that's the trick. Maybe with deGrom, you wait to start him until July, and then you just say, hey, I need you to pitch me through at least September.
Yeah. I don't know if he can make it.
No, he probably couldn't. Unfortunately, he probably couldn't. But there was a year there he only missed, I think, 1 start from 17 through 19. And he was incredible. 18 and 19, he was just so good. I'm looking at stats. He was so good. But career 84 wins. Does he make it to 100?
I don't know. I mean, this is coming off your 3rd Tommy John surgery. Your 30 will be, probably on the verge of 36 by the time you're back. I don't know, man.
That's crazy to think of a guy who is that much better than every other pitcher in baseball in his peak, and he's not going to get to 100 wins. It is different baseball. I still am a firm believer that wins matter. I know it's old school, but you go out there to get wins. What else are you going out there for? Strikeouts.
And I get some of it's not. You can't do nothing about it. I mean, we saw Felix Hernandez win. What was he, 9 and 8 that year, or 8 or 9
I think he was
that year?
12 and 13.
12 and 13. Yeah.
Yeah. deGrom was 10 and 9 that year.
That's probably what I was thinking. Yeah. You win Cy Young because your team's just that bad, but you're that good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're the Mets. Come on. At least you're not the A's. Now the A's are almost without a home.
Hey, the A's have won 5 in a row.
Oh, a hot streak. Yeah. Better break out the champagne. Get it ready for October. They still have a worse record than the Royals, who are trash.
Yeah. Yeah. Not good.
I know that they broke the legislation or whatever it was before coming to a deal. They're going to come to a deal. They did it already with 2 teams. They're going to figure it out because, man, it's good for any community or city to have multiple franchises. And As bad as they are right now, you can't look at that. You have to look at they will eventually spend more money. They'll bring more people to the stadium. Right now, it sucks.
Yeah. I mean, there's some people that are very pessimistic that it could happen. That it happens when they move, but I don't know if the MLB allows that to happen. I get, that they'll find a way to throw more money at them. Go, okay, we'll pay this much more, that the city doesn't have to pay or whatever, because they obviously do not want them there. I mean, Manfred basically gave them the free right away to go. Okay, we won't charge you all these relocation fees and all this other stuff. We'll waive all that. So obviously they're wanting it to happen. They'll find a way to dish out some more money if the Vegas, that legislator's worried about how much money that the city will have to dish out or whatever for the stadium. They'll find a way to make it happen.
Yeah. No, I think it'll happen eventually. Eventually. And then they'll add teams probably to Nashville and Salt Lake City and places like that aren't going to win a World Series because they're too high in elevation. Let's go back to that old discussion. All right, so let's get to the main thing for this episode right now. We got probably about 15 minutes left in the podcast record time. So we're going to talk about some college football. If you're ready for college football, this is the time for you, because we're going to start sneaking in some more college football content. It's June. Before you know it's July. Once it's July, it's August. Once August, games start. So we're ready. Oh, man. You just when you really break it down like that, it sneaks up on you.
Yeah, it's almost here.
Bro, it's mid-June,
Yeah. Yeah,
all right.
It's almost here.
So here's the list. This came out a couple weeks ago, and it was with ESPN or ESPN Plus stuff, and it was tiered quarterbacks. And this is college quarterbacks. Now, this is kind of a mixed bag. I want to point this out. The list actually has guys we're going to talk, like it starts off with tier number 1. This is the guys that you're going to be talking about come draft season. This makes sense, right? But also know that some college quarterbacks are college quarterbacks. And that's what I think we might get into a little bit here. So the initial tier list, I'm going to read off the names. I just went too far. Is 2 names: Caleb Williams, Drake May. Is there someone that they left off?
I don't. I think so. I think those 2 are clearly the top 2 quarterbacks of this year's, college football.
Yeah. No, I agree. The only thing I think that this right here, you had to separate 1A and 1B instead of 1 and 2, because 1A is NFL talent, going to be just that type of player. 1B would almost be like, hey, you can be one of the best college quarterbacks. Like, you may not make it in the NFL, but that's the separation in the tier that I have. And breaking news, Colin in the chat is going to be a Sooners bandwagon fan. Let's go. And I will say it's a good time to jump on, because the load is a little bit lighter because we had a bad year last year. We're gonna move quick. Between those 2, who would you rather have?
I mean, it's Caleb.
It is Caleb Williams.
The only thing that will possibly hold Caleb back is going to be the ego.
Yeah.
And that's one thing Drake May doesn't have. But you talk about all the intangibles, the ability to make the throws on the run, get out of the pocket, evade, the arm strength, accuracy, everything. The dude's got it.
Yeah, both guys last year, similar numbers overall. Caleb Williams was slightly better across the board, but they were at least in the same ballpark. Now, I will say Drake had 38 touchdowns versus 45 passing touchdowns. The QBRs were pretty close. Just a little bit, I would argue that the defense might be a little better in the ACC. It's really just picking apart, though. So that's just my thought on those 2 guys. So the tier B would be the most prolific quarterbacks, not these guys. And this is where I started to think of probably the best college quarterbacks. So this list starts off with Jordan Travis, Bo Nix, Cam Rising, and, of course, Michael Penix Jr., who was completely reborn over there in Washington last year. Completely turned around that program that lost to Montana the year before.
Yeah. You look at this list, and so you look at the top 6 that they have there. Mm-hmm. One thing that stands out a lot to me is you've got 4 quarterbacks there that play in the Pac-12.
Yes.
What is that? That tells me a little something that the Pac-12 probably isn't as good. I mean, look at the numbers. Bo Nix isn't what the fact that you look at mock drafts for next year and you have Bo Nix and Michael Penix in the first round, I think is absolutely insane. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't care what they did last year. You did it against poor competition. But you rewrote yourself for college. Hats off to you because what you guys came from was abysmal, and you guys made yourself better college guys. I think another thing that a player that I find that is missing that I think should probably be up there is Sam Hartman.
Okay.
What Hartman's done over the last 2 years, granted the interceptions may be a little high, 12, 14 interceptions last couple of years, but the amount of touchdowns, the yards, everything. He's been a very prolific quarterback in college football in the ACC. And the fact that Jordan Travis is up there and taking nothing away from what Travis did last year, he improved a whole lot, from what the year before. But that he's up there that tier above Sam Hartman, I think is a little crazy.
Yeah, both these guys, by the way, have been in college since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
2018 people. That's a long time. It's their careers college stat sheet is starting to look an awful lot like an NFL career for most players. Yeah, I'm not completely sold yet on Jordan Travis. I think this is that mixed bag, like Bo Nix. I think he against the best defenses. I don't buy into it. I don't know that he can always play up to that. Against North Carolina, he had an okay game. He had a pick. He didn't really run the ball that much. Against Oregon State, he had an okay game. They lost. Against Washington, they lost. Against Georgia, we all remember that game. You're like, man, this is a bad transfer. So I think he really beefed up his numbers against teams in the Pac-12. Yep. And I think so. There's something to be said of that. Just like there was something to be said with where would you put Landry Jones back in the day on this list? Maybe we can answer that here in a second. But that's what I'm not saying that he's Landry Jones. I'm just saying he feasted on these Big 12 defenses at that time. Mm-hmm. I think the highest floor, the lowest ceiling was definitely Cam Rising. I mean, he's your classic college quarterback. He's going to probably, go down as one of the best quarterbacks that Utah's had outside of Alex Smith, assuming he can keep winning. Like I said, Jordan Travis, we'll know this year. Michael Penix Jr. is by far the best one on this team, in this tier. It's not even close to me. I think it's definitely him. I know he's also been in the college program since 2018. But just what I saw him turn around an absolutely terrible team. This team was bad 2 years ago, and he just flipped it. That has to speak clearly to so much of the talent and the leadership that he was able to bring to the offensive side of the ball. That was really struggling last year. Yeah,
and I think a big thing that you can contribute to Penix is, what it'd be his 2021 season he was coming off that injury where he was hurt pretty much most of 2021, but tried to play through it, then got the big injury towards the end of the season towards ACL. I think he just wasn't really in that mental state to play football at that point. And I think it's shown. Then he went out to Washington, and I guarantee you a lot of it also for him is the same thing you say for Bo Nix, where he did feast a lot on bad talent. You playing against some of the worst teams in college football in the Pac-12
teams.
And so, that is part of it. But, I think he's absolutely the best in that tier.
Yeah. Well, so the next tier was tier 2. The title of this one was, you may not have noticed, but these guys are really good players. There's 4 of them. There's Arkansas's KJ Jefferson, Kansas' Jalen Daniels, Michigan's JJ McCarthy, and UTSA's Frank Harris. Now, a lot of people do like Frank Harris as a dark horse guy. Again, he's going to feast on some really bad talent overall. Again, just throwing this out there, your guy hasn't been put in this list yet. Sam Hartman.
Yeah, and
so
I didn't quite understand some of the way they did this list. I don't know what we are doing here, but I said you can't discredit what Sam Hartman's done over the last couple of years. And KJ Jefferson has been better than what I expected over the last few years. Once you start looking at the numbers are really solid for the guy. And same with, Frank Harris. I knew about him just because there's a lot of people talking about him. Then Jalen Daniels.
be one of the first people that probably does know these names for sure. Man. Come on now.
Yeah, but then we saw what Kansas was last year without Jalen Daniels. They were bad. Jalen Daniels had a really solid year last year when he was healthy. So I think I like this list. I think the one guy is JJ McCarthy. Yeah, he had a great year last year, or he had a solid year. It was the numbers I think look a little bit better than what he put out there sometimes. I think he had
good for
a
Michigan.
really, yeah, I think he had some up and down times where there was times where they couldn't move the ball. Corum got hurt. Donovan Edwards is hurt. They really weren't able to move the ball as him being the primary go-to guy on that offense as the quarterback. And so that makes me go, okay, how good really is he? Can he lead a team, or does he absolutely have to rely on a dominant run game with the Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards? That I think there's still questions there. But to me, I'm like, I think everyone knows who JJ McCarthy is. He made it to the college football playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's really a name that no one that knows college football shouldn't know.
Yeah, maybe that's a bad section for him to be in the title. Here's the thought process I have for how they went through making this list or tiering him, because it is kind of confusing. Because I don't think most people are going to say, yeah, give me Frank Harris over these other guys. Like, I think he's better.
Yeah.
I think it's like if you had a college, rank these guys of who you'd want as your quarterback. Like, I think upside for Frank Harris, I think is better. That's why they're going to say that. Yeah, I mean, JJ McCarthy, we think we know who he is for sure. I think that was the funny one. But of those, who's the best one, do you think?
I mean, it's hard to really what to say with Frank Harris just based off of where he plays.
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers are incredible.
Yeah.
Last year, I mean, the numbers he get to put up are incredible. I'll say KJ Jefferson probably. I don't know. That's tough just because I'm not completely sold on KJ Jefferson because I just don't know if he's that guy. I'll say Jalen Daniels, actually. I'll go Kansas kid because
Are you gonna give me each guy?
probably. No, I'm going to go Jalen Daniels because I saw how he can lead a team.
Yeah.
The effort, especially in the bowl game last year, coming back from what they did, he put the team on his back and basically willed them to almost coming back to that from that 25-point deficit.
Incredible. Such a fun game. All right, so here's the tier 3 is never question the system. 12 players. Now I'm also just gonna say system for the ones where there's multiple players because these are guys that hey we're not sure who it is. So there's one that they're sure it's Cade Klubnik of Clemson. The other ones are like hey we don't know who it is. So we got for Alabama, and this is some big name programs, which is why they're saying this. So Alabama, they got Tyler Buckner, Jalen Milroe, and Ty Simpson. I'm not sold on these guys yet. I don't even know that Alabama is sold on these guys. Georgia has Carson Beck or Brock Vandergriff. Again, I'm not sold yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Kyle McCord, Devin Brown. Penn State's Drew Aller or Bo Pribula? I don't know. And then Tennessee, Joe Milton or Nico. I'm not even going to try it.
You ain't going to try the Imalieva?
No. I knew you could do it. I was like, I struggled on Pribula.
Yeah. So this one I had issues with.
Yeah.
Just because I don't get okay, how can you say you don't question the system when you got Alabama who has a completely different system than they've had over the last 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
New offense coordinator, new quarterback coach. They have a whole new offensive system. So how can you say you can't question this whenever there's questions about it right now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously they weren't sold on Jay Milroe or Ty Simpson during the spring game that they went out there and got Tyler Buckner, who has a big question mark also.
Yeah.
And same with the Georgia thing. Granted, they win, and quarterback hasn't been like the biggest issue of why they win. But
really good quarterback play from Bennett over the last couple of years. Like
really Bennett, yeah, and so I mean, I don't know if this one's tough because I don't think it's really the system that's been great. And then also on top of that, they got a completely new system also. Todd Monken's in the NFL.
That's true.
So how can you, and then Penn State. Sean Clifford has been absolutely terrible.
Hey, he's a Packer. He's the future Hall of Famer, drafted 5th round draft pick. Man, what a
Yeah. How can you not question this one whenever that system has not? Yeah, Trace McSorley was a decent quarterback. Okay.
Yeah.
But that system hasn't been great. Am I big on Drew Allard? I think Drew Allard is a great quarterback, and I think if they can figure something out, because I think what they got going up in Penn State, I'm not a big fan of James Franklin. I think he's poser. I think that people are way too high on what he's able to do because they're like, oh, he helped Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's still terrible. We're terrible when he was there.
Yeah. So here's the thing. They say trust the system. Also, Clemson. Let's look at your recent stats here. Okay.
Yeah.
Uguale, DJ Uguale. How do you say it? Say it.
Oh man, DJ Uiagalelei.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, I remember the first time I tried to say that on a podcast, and you and Joe just laughed at me in the face. It was great. Of these systems, is there one that you trust just the system itself the most? We'll put it that way.
But you know what? They got a completely new system there too.
Well, sorry, bad question. of Alabama all the way to Tennessee, is there one that you trust the most with these guys? Like, I put my money on this guy.
Just on the player or like the system?
Yeah, the system.
The player? The system?
Yeah, because I got one.
I'll say Tennessee. I'll say Josh Heupel.
Tennessee. Did you see the numbers he put up last year in backup? Yeah. 10 touchdowns, no picks. What? We're not even blink. This literally is copy paste. And I'm not saying Hendon Hooker is the same guy. I'm just saying, like, he produced. Hendon Hooker produced. I trust it. Yep. Landry Jones produced. I'm just going to bring him up again.
Yeah. Who would have thought Landry Jones getting brought up twice?
Man, I did not expect that. What in the world? All right. So now we're going to go to our last two tiers here. So I just want you to pick the guy you trust the most in this. This is tier 4A, consistently very good. Coastal Carolina, Grayson McCall, almost transferred, didn't transfer. Duke's Riley Leonard, K-State's Will Howard, who is one of the most inconsistent. Like, I cannot get my brain around this guy, but he had a good into this regular season. LSU's Jalen Daniels, people love him. Sam Harton, now at Notre Dame. Oklahoma's Dylan Gabriel, a little southpaw action there. And Tulane's Michael Pratt.
Yep. Give me Sam Hartman 10 times out of 10. I love Jaden Daniels also. I've been big on Jaden Daniels. I think we saw a big step up in his game last year. But give me Sam Hartman. I mean, the guy has heart. I mean, it's in his name. But, I mean, he goes out there and he's that leader that you want in the huddle, outside of the huddle, off the field, everything. He's that guy you want, and he puts up the numbers. Yeah, I don't understand the Will Howard because we're talking about a guy that was a backup to Adrian Martinez and was a backup to Skylar Thompson after he lost a job to Skylar Thompson. How can you say he's consistently good?
Yeah. The guy who I think this year will have potentially the worst season of all of them is, because you did the other answer, which I'm not going to disagree with. I think I would almost exact same numbers, is Michael Pratt. He was the quarterback of the best one-win team. And he also had the complete opposite season where he was great all season long. What great. He was really good this season. And then he beat USC, obviously, and it was a great day. But I think Jaden Daniels also, he's a great wild card, consistently very good for sure. So can't argue with that tier. Dylan Gabriel, no love for him, huh?
I mean, he's OU boy. There's some consistency issues that I think would keep me from picking him over a couple of these guys. But, I mean, I still think he's a solid college quarterback. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the same thing for sure. So, tier 4B, very good and consistently. Yeah, I like this. Ole Miss is going to have a couple guys. So, they got Spencer Sanders, Walker Howard, or Jackson Dart. You got Maryland's Tulia Tagovailoa still in the league somehow, or in the program. Mississippi State's Will Rogers, South Carolina's Spencer Rattler. Western Kentucky, Austin Reed, Arizona's Jaden DeLaura. I got them all. Yeah, that's all. Okay. Best one. Yeah. One that you trust the most.
One I would trust. Oh, gosh.
He says Spencer
this group.
You got to start a franchise. Who you drafted?
I think Will Rogers gets a bad rap. I think that he plays. He said, I'm sure the numbers have been a little inconsistent up and down. And then also you got to throw in he's been in that air raid system, which I don't think he's completely an air raid guy. He's, I think, more of a mobile kind of in and out of the pocket, play action type guy. So maybe the system didn't fit as well for him. But I'm going to go with Will Rogers. The rest of these guys, the whole Ole Miss system, I don't understand what's going on there. The things just, I think it's a dumpster fire waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart comes in, was supposed to be this big deal, had an okay season. Walker Howard, he was a big time prospect, transferred in from LSU. Then you get Spencer Sanders out of nowhere, transferring to Ole Miss whenever they already got a couple guys. Yeah, the whole thing just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
South Carolina.
No, Spencer Sanders.
Oh, I was Aaron Rattler. My bad. Yeah, Spencer Sanders. That one didn't make sense to me at all when he went there. So I was definitely surprised. Now, you look at Spencer Rattler. He had 2 incredible games to end the season, but we know who he is. I mean, you look at those two incredible games, that got him to 7.6 yards per pass and then 18 touchdowns, 12 picks. It took 2 incredible games to get there. That should be saying something, people. The other one, I think Jackson Dart has the potential to be the best because he made like you said, dumpster fire could happen, but he made some pretty big strides of improvement year over year. An extra yard per pass attempt. He essentially did the same touchdown to interceptions ratio that he had before, but he did it at a higher percentage. So I do like that. And then he did take a couple extra sacks, which that might just be the defense is getting better around him because he was playing the SEC versus the Pac-12. But I think he has the potential. Now, if a dumpster fire happens, I'm sorry, it could turn out like the Cardinals baseball season.
Yeah, there's a possibility. I think there's too many guys are going to be trying to getting snaps. Like I said, do we even know who's starting? I mean, why does Spencer Sanders go there, knowing that one, you got Jackson Dart there. Then on top of that, before he came, Walker Howard transferred in, who was a 4 or 5 star prospect coming out of high school. The whole situation when he transferred there, I was just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So we don't have time for the whole thing. So do you still have the list of the players?
Yeah.
Okay. So of the high ceiling, low floor 5A tier, who was the name that stuck out to you the most?
I mean, it's Quinn Ewers.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I think that he's in the right tier for sure.
But it's for a reason that I think I think the dude is absolutely overhyped.
Oh,
absolutely
so you think he shouldn't go on?
No. I mean, he has I guess you could say he has a high ceiling, but numbers don't back it. No. Everyone goes, oh, you put on the Alabama tape or you put on the Oklahoma tape. The Oklahoma tape absolutely just needs to go away because we all know what happened that Oklahoma had running back throw as many passes as our starting quarterback did that game because Dylan Gabriel was out and we ran the Wildcat most of the time and they had the ball. I think the possession time was like 20-minute difference. Of course, he's going to put up big numbers when the defense is on the field the whole time. But I don't think people look at other things like he threw 48 passes last year of 20-plus yards. He only completed 12 of them. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He was the second worst quarterback when he attempted to pass beyond the line of scrimmage. Second worst when it came to QBR. And then you look at when he played teams in the top 40 defensive-wise, he had a 51 completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 6.3 yards per game, and a QBR of 59.7.
It's not very good, especially in college.
Yeah. And this is a guy that everyone is, he's going to be the savior of Texas. He was the number 1 recruit. I haven't seen anything from him that makes me think that the guy's going to be anything better than maybe a solid non-Power 5 quarterback.
Yeah. The name that stood out for me was Tanner Mordecai. I think it shouldn't even be a question who to start in Wisconsin's program this year. It's Tanner Mordecai. Now, he's not going to put up big numbers. I mean, he put up decent numbers with SMU. Different system for sure, but he's definitely the guy that I would go for. It wouldn't even – I mean, that's just who it would be.
That's a guy I think that you probably could have been thrown up in there consistently good.
Oh, for sure.
Because I don't think the ceiling's super high for him. I think the floor is high. I mean, because we know who Tanner Mordecai is. He can put up the yards. We've seen him play in rare air raid offense at SMU and put up yards, put up touchdowns and everything. We've seen it all. So I don't think it's anything that we're like, man, he's got a huge ceiling, big ceiling like some of these other guys, like a Shedeur Sanders, or Connor Wigman, from Texas A&M. I think he's more of he's a really good, consistent guy, and the floor is probably high, high, and it's not really high ceiling. I think it's someone we know what we got, and I don't think we can expect a whole lot more from it.
Yeah. Well, that is all the time we have for today. The rest we can actually continue to go through these guys. This is a very extensive list. Every single quarterback program is ranked in this one. I wonder if Army has it. Army has a program. We may not hit them all, but we're going to continue the list because it's a fun one to get us ready for college football. That's just around the corner. So, if you didn't already know, you should. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast over on YouTube. Follow us on all the social medias. We would love to have you a part of the show because that is what makes this so much fun. Having your opinions, your inputs, your thoughts, your rants, whatever it might be. We want to know about them. You can join us in the chat every single Monday at 6:30 Central Time. But also continue to download and subscribe to the podcast on any podcast platform. So we appreciate you guys. Till then, we're going to see you all next time.
See ya.
See ya.